All right, guys, I'm going to answer your questions in the order in which they were asked. I'll begin with Xavier. Xavier or Xavier? And I'm in France and I'm getting confused. Maybe it's Xavier. Yes, Xavier. I like your idea of. I know you want to be a film director. You like the idea of creating your own universe, which you can do with a movie, out of ones and zeros. I usually shoot on film, so I don't use the ones and zeros. I use the grain, but it's the same idea. Tips and inspirations. Well, I would say, as far as inspirations go, I'm always looking for them. I'm not even consciously looking for them, but in a way, anything I'm reading, anything I'm watching in movies or books, and things happening around me in my life, I'm kind of always looking to see how is that going to help me make a movie, because that's what I like to do, is make a movie. And I think the more you read, the deeper your knowledge of movies is. And for me, I've watched a lot of old movies. I've always watched old movies. Don't watch that many silent films really, but movies from the beginning of sound, which is like 1930 or 1929 or something like that, is when it really begins. And I like European films and Asian films, and I've seen lots of American and English films, British films. But I guess really in the end, maybe it's reading that is the biggest source of inspiration. And history, I think for me, going back to a place where that really existed, that's completely erased, but there's a trace of it somewhere, and seeing, is there a way to recreate that or to draw on that and make something new, or like you say, create a universe. The past has a lot to offer. History has a lot to offer for doing that. For me, a lot of it is what can I use to make a movie. Thank you, Xavier. Or Xavier, I think it's Xavier. Alba. Italian name, maybe, or is it Spanish? I know an Alba who's Italian. I did not go to scout camp. I was a scout, but I wasn't very good, and I didn't really make it to the camp, and I didn't really make it very far at all with the scouting. But Alba has many questions, so I'll be coming back to her. Carmen, how did you think of Susie in Moonrise Kingdom? Well, I had a friend when I was in second grade, which I don't know what that is for you guys. That's, I think, probably when you're about 7. Her name was Susie Bishop, I gave the name of the character in the movie, her name. And she was my friend. I don't know how much the characters really like her, because I haven't seen her since I was probably 8. But she was the inspiration for it. So just my memory of this friend. But then also a certain amount of that character probably comes from my own childhood. I did find a little book my parents had called How to Cope with the Troubled Child. And there was more than one child in our family, but I knew which one they were talking about. I found it on top of the refrigerator. Nana, how many people helped you make a film? And what was your favorite film as a child, or when you were younger? Well, depending on the kind of movie, what I like to do is try to keep the team on the movie set as small as I possibly can. When you're doing a sort of big movie, lots of people want to be there, and you have a lot of people that could work on it, and you sort of struggle to keep it small. So sometimes you have hundreds of people. With an animated movie, you have lots of people working in different places. They're not on the set. In fact, the set, right now we're doing an animated shot here in France, where I am now, and our animator, Kim Kukalere, who's one of the greatest stop-motion animators alive, I think. I'm certain of it. She's working in a room with one person, her husband, and that's it. They do it alone. But we have people who've made the puppets, we have people who've built the sets, we have people who are supporting them in different places, mostly in England. My favorite film as a child, I don't know. I can't say if this was my favorite film, but when I saw the movie, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Alfred Hitchcock, The Man Who Knew Too Much, with James Stewart. I saw it when I was 7 or 8 or something like that, and this name Hitchcock, he was a famous movie director. I didn't really know what a movie director was, and I love this movie, and I couldn't even say why. I think it was more than the story, which I liked. It was the atmosphere of it, and the characters, and it was well made. It was well done. He was such a good director. Hitchcock, I think, is my answer. Evan, my favorite character in a movie I have done. Well, I'll tell you, for myself, when I make a movie, usually there's a certain point at which the actors take over. Sorry, I've got a background of my messy office here. The actors sort of take over the character. So my first film, I had my friends, Owen and Luke Wilson, they were acting in the movie, and it's very important, especially Owen's character, because Owen and I wrote the movie together, but Luke too, who was Owen's brother. That's the first film I made, Bottle Rocket, which you won't have seen, but those two characters. Jason Schwartzman, in my second film I made, which is called Rushmore, Jason was 17 when I cast him to be in this film I made, and he made this character come to life, and then we've been friends ever since then. So we've been friends for 23 years or something like that. I don't know. More, maybe 24 years. So in a way, the people take over the characters, and they become, that's sort of what my favorite things are. Back to Alba. Are you annoyed when someone makes a blooper and you have to do a retake? Well, I don't know if I would say I'm never annoyed. First of all, but I don't get annoyed much at actors. Maybe if I don't feel like they prepared themselves enough. If sometimes I have had moments where I feel somebody didn't really try hard enough in advance to be ready. But most of the time, anything they do, they might surprise you with something that even they didn't know they were going to do. And a blooper is just as likely. Sometimes an accident is the great surprise, and it makes something special and memorable, and sometimes it's the thing you're waiting for and hoping for. Yoshi asks, how old was I when I knew I wanted to make films? Well, I think probably I was pretty young, like maybe 10 or 11 or something. My father had bought a Super 8 film camera, which you can shoot little, like 3 minutes at a time, as a roll of film. I made a movie based on a library book about some skateboarders then, and I really enjoyed doing it, and he let me keep the camera. So I kept making films from around then, so really when I was very young. Alba asks now, do you make the same mistakes again and again when you're making? Well, I do make the same mistakes again and again, and sometimes I even know I'm making the mistake, but I sort of say, I think I want to make this mistake. It's the way I want to do it. I know it's not. I know sometimes the thing that is maybe a sort of a mistake, something where you are doing something that's similar to something you've done before, and maybe you might look for a new solution, but sometimes I find the thing that I'm really drawn to, that partly what makes me want to make the movie, is something I've done before, or something that I know is not really dramatically right, let's say. Sometimes it's the weird idea that makes you want to make the film. Is that a mistake? Probably. Ennis asks, what do you enjoy making a movie? What frustrates you? Well, that's one of the things that frustrates me the most, is when we have too many people. The group gets too big and you don't feel like you can make the mistakes you want to make. Because you start getting too professional. But that's frustrating. But the thing that I enjoy is the most probably is a moment on a movie set when something new happens, when an actor does something great. That's the most thrilling thing of all. It's really, in the end, I mean, writing a script is the biggest challenge and the biggest sort of accomplishment in the process of making a movie. But the next thing is getting them to play it, and actors taking over and showing you what it can be. That's the thing that I like the most. Siri asks, do your movies reflect your own experiences in life and so on? And I would say, yes, they really always do, Siri. I mean, so I've made movies where I wanted them to, where I had one movie that I made in India, and really while we were doing the movie, my wish was to make the most personal thing, and to anytime we could go to, me and my collaborators, Jason Schwartzman and Roman Coppola, anytime we could use our own lives to answer the question of what's going to happen next in the story, we tried to. Sometimes the characters take over and they take it in a different direction, and it has less to do, it might have more to do with things I've read or things I know about other people. But sometimes it's been very personal. Moonrise Kingdom, that's particularly personal as well. I mean, personal in the sense that it resembled some experiences in my own life. But they're probably quite distorted in it. Alba's last question: do you regret making any of these films? And the answer is no, I don't. Even the ones that people think are the worst, I don't mind having made them. I mean, every movie I made, I spent some years doing, and I work with a group of people who I feel very close to, and they're all movies I made just because I chose to. So there's no movie that I got into and wished I wasn't doing, and there's no movie I can look back. There are all of them I can look back and say, I wish I had done this better or that better. All of them I would love to try to improve, but I don't really want to go back and improve them. I wish I could go back and improve them at the time, and that's too late. Finally, Woody. Now, Woody has very interesting drawings, and I see your animation, Woody, which is really interesting too. I see how sometimes you've animated just the mouth, for instance, which we've seen in drawn animation, but that's especially a thing we've used in stop motion animation, where you have a mouth that you can remove. We sometimes replace faces and mouths. You've animated in a way that is very familiar to me, and your drawings are really interesting and good and expressive. And I like your puppets too. They remind me, I made things like that when I was your age. When did you discover your style, and what is it? And do I draw my movie stories? Well, sometimes I draw things. I used to always draw all the things first. I now have some collaborators who I work with who draw for me, and I describe what I want. Sometimes I do little sketches, but I don't really think of a style for myself. I just have a way I like to do things, and most of the time I feel like the story is telling me what you need to see, and then I relate it. I have always related it more to like my handwriting. You don't necessarily create your handwriting, or you don't necessarily think about it when you create your handwriting, but it becomes a part of your personality almost, and that's how I sort of approach the movies. Sometimes I say, I'm about to do this a way that people know I do this, but if I do it another way, it doesn't feel like me sometimes. But I'm always looking to try new things too, but I guess I try them and I do them in my own way, which brings them back to things people recognize in me, I guess. Thank you all for your questions, and I'm sending my very best wishes, and I enjoyed seeing your video. Thank you, everybody. Bye.